So Rabbi Weiss, why it says you're a Jew, you're not a Zionist?
That is correct.
What exactly is Zionism?
With the help of the Almighty, give me the proper words to convey his message. My name is Rabbi Dovid Weiss, and your question to me is why we're here to participate. I suppose you don't mean me personally, you mean obviously the religious Jewish people. And I pray to the Almighty He should bestow upon me His truth, that I may be worthy of conveying His message, and so to sanctify His name. With the help of the Almighty, Zionism is a movement, a relatively new movement of a little over 100 years. It portrays itself as the representation of Judaism, and accurately speaking, it is the diametric opposite of what Judaism is. Judaism is religion, spirituality, to serve the Almighty, subservience to the Almighty, accepting a covenant that we made over around 3,000 years ago. Zionism is, like I say, around 100-odd years, created mostly by irreligious Jews, ones who were estranged from the religion, detested the religion, like Heretical, Ben-Gurion, Chaim Weizmann, Jabotinsky. They detested the religion, most of them, and they wanted to transform this concept of Judaism.
So you don't think Israel should be the homeland of the Jewish people?
Wait, let's for a second. Just the concept of the Zionism, the ideology behind the state, is a base transformation from religion into nationalism, a material concept. It has nothing whatsoever to do with our covenant, with our requirement as a Jew. On the contrary, we were put under oath by God that when we sent into exile, which happened around 2,000 years ago, we are expressly forbidden to return and make our own nationhood.
So where did Zionism come from? Where did that idea come from?
As I say, it's a mere 100-odd years, created by people who detested the religion. Theodor Herzl, Ben-Gurion, Jabotinsky, many of these people who wanted to have the cake and eat it, so to say. They wanted to be looked at as distinguished, legitimate Jews in the Jewish community, and yet they didn't want to practice the religion. They really they were disgusted by the old shtetl Jew, by all the Jews who kept to the Torah. I keep with me the writings.
And you keep Torah, you're observant?
Yes. The concept of Judaism, as I say, is spirituality, subservience to God and the covenant of God, which expressly, one of the issues of Torah, of the covenant, is that when we were sent into exile, around 2,000 years ago, we are not in any manner to attempt to recreate our sovereignty. We were put under 3 oaths not to return en masse to the Holy Land, not to rebel against any nation. We have to be loyal in every country where we're residing, and not to make any attempt to end exile. Zionism flies in the face of all that. And compounding all of this rebellion against God, being that they decided to make their state in Palestine, it was a land that was inhabited by a people. And the Torah, the basics of our Torah, is that one shall not steal, one shall not kill. And Zionism, in order to make their state in Palestine, they've banished the people, they've oppressed the people, they've taken the land away and occupied a land from a people.
Now, one of the main ideas of Zionism is that Israel or Palestine was the Jewish people's land thousands of years ago.
Well, that...
So is there any merit to that argument?
Well, of course, that's where they're building their con job on. How they're trying to ensnare people to believe them, or to intimidate people that you're fighting the religion if you don't support them. Yes, it was ours. But if you're going to look at the religion clearly stipulates that we are forbidden since 2,000 years ago to try to recreate our sovereignty. Even 1 inch of Jewish sovereignty in any part of the world is forbidden, and Jews respected that for 2,000 years. That's why when we had the golden age of Judaism, when we went through the Inquisition, the Crusades, and there was the opportunities to buy land. All the rabbis, Maimonides, and the other great leaders always told the Jews, be patient. We cannot buy land and create our own sovereignty. That's clear. And that's why for 2,000 years Jews never attempted to make their own state anywhere. Because that is clearly something which is forbidden. And again, it gets compounded because with this goal of creating their state, of having their state, they're trampling on the rights of other people. All of it is forbidden, and it's contradictory to all the basics of Judaism, and that's why the more the religious the community, you will find the more opposition to Zionism around the world. In Jerusalem, where you come right across from Manhattan, Williamsburg, you won't find one Israeli flag. It's a fact. The more religious, the more anti-Zionist. So the use the use of the Star of David, the hijacking the name Israel, all of this that they're using our identity is simply a misrepresentation. They've hijacked this, and it's a misrepresentation of our religion, and that's why you'll find Jews that come from Jerusalem, from New York, from Canada, from England, wherever. The very religious refuses to give up our names to Zionism, the state of Israel. We will never accept the existence of the state.
You're saying the more the religious Jewish person, the less likely they're likely to be a Zionist?
Exactly, because the more they know their religion, the more they know that it's clearly contradictory. It's antithetical to our religion. And I always carry along with me the writings, many different things we have here. This is, for instance, called The Rabbis Speak Out, 130 years record of religious Jewish opposition to Zionism, which is from around the world. All the greatest leaders of Torah Jewry, and that everybody who knows Torah Jewry knows that these are the greatest. The Chofetz Chaim, he's Sir Meir Cohen, who passed away in 1933 before the state, and he said, the Zionists are dead limbs of our people, who causes the entire body to rot. Every single one, from Hasidic to Lithuanian to Sephardic, everybody opposed Zionism. And the Zionists themselves, like we have something called traditional Torah opposition to Zionism, historic documents. If you look at their own writing, you see who they are. You see the falsehood. You see it gets uncovered, the truth, what they are. Jabotinsky wrote an article outside the camp in 1919. The National Home will announce that those Jews who have on themselves the rust of exile, and they refuse to shave off the beards, and Iraqs will be second-class citizens who will not have the right to vote. If they have beards, they won't have the right to vote because they detested the religious Jew. Theodor Herzl said, wrote in his diary, that they should make a mass conversion of all the Jews in Austria to Catholicism. It should be done on a Sunday in the middle of the day with music and pride. We're the last generation that held on to the faith of us. He never circumcised his son. Hands, the one son he had. They detested the religion. It can go on with these people. So this is the view of religion that we simply oppose. It's against our religion, and we will never accept it. And what they're doing is, spiritually, I mean, they're rebelling against God. It's a heresy. It's built on heresy. They say, where was God to protect us? So it's infused and rooted in heresy. Where was God to protect us? God can't protect us. We have to take matters into our own hands. But that's an excuse for their making of the state.
So where are all these people going wrong? They're so excited, and they seem so
Most
proud
of these,
to be Israel.
You will find the very religious you won't find here. Almost entirely, you'll see this phenomenon that it's all modern schooling. Why? Because they're ignorant, mostly entirely, of their religions, or they're making compromises. And even if you'll find Orthodox, it's what they call modern Orthodox, which is a euphemism for making compromises with the religion. The more modern, the more pro-Zionist you'll find them. Why? Because Zionism is a trade-off, is something which you people for their convenience sake, and they're following their emotions, and they're ready to throw away anything that stands in the way when unless they feel maybe they won't eat Yom Kippur, the modern Orthodox, but everybody they're ready to make compromises. They're not truly given over to the Torah like a Jew has to be, and that's a fact because the very religious will never accept this. So that's where it comes from. And the Zionists just pour in billions of dollars into their school systems and so forth to teach and to just brainwash them with Zionism. That's where it comes from. of course, it comes from a lot of use of fear-mongering, saying that the Arabs want to kill us and they're like the Nazis, and people buy into that. And on that subject alone, it's a tragedy because the Jewish people, throughout history, when we were being murdered, like I say, the Inquisition, or by the Crusaders, and so many, and by World War II, whenever it was, Jewish people found a home in the Arab and Muslim countries. Now, I'm not saying it was perfect, but we were able to exist and to flourish as religious Jewish communities, and the proof is there. Anybody could go to any of the Arab countries, you'll find the communities, the synagogues, and we flourished as very religious communities, and there were no human rights groups to protect us or United Nations, and yet we were not massacred. Why? Because this has nothing to do with a religious conflict. On the contrary, these Arab and Muslim states provided a safe haven and a home for us throughout our trials and tribulations. So we were required by God to show our gratitude for such a thing. And now the Zionists come, and with one sweep, they accuse them of being evil and that they do not accept any Jews, and they hate Jews, and they're anti-Semitic, so to say, or whatever. When in the fact, God would have requires of us to show our thankfulness for what they've done for us all the time. So it's a double and triple tragedy when they're coming along and having this conflict, and this oppression of the Palestinian people. That's another issue that we stand out and we cry and we scream to the world that they should hear that what the Zionists are doing is evil. It's a rebellion against God. It's a heresy that claiming God can't protect us, and everything that God expects of us and teaches us, like I say, to show gratitude. Just as God is compassionate, you should be compassionate. Show gratitude for good. Everything they turn on its head and they fight against.
So if you were talking to a pro-Zionist Jewish guy, what would be the apologetics from his side? What would be his arguing points?
Well, they're trained just to, first of all, the first thing is they ridicule us, and that's the way. They don't get into any arguments usually. They don't want to debate the issue. They just simply make away with, oh, who are you representing? You're just a small community, and some idiocies like that. That's the way they're trained. A concrete argument, a concrete debate, a logical debate they can't have, because then they can't refute. If they're Orthodox, they can't refute that just 60 years ago in Europe, the entire Jewish community, all the leaders opposed Zionism. They were ostracized. It was one small group that approved of Zionism, and everybody, they were ostracized from all the communities. All the great leaders opposed it, and even today, in Jerusalem, in the Holy Land, or around the world, the very religious opposed it, and supposedly even the Aguda, whatever, that joined the government, only went in there claiming to want to protect the rights of the religious. But they won't even march. They never march with an Israeli Independence Day parade, because they know that it's wrong. They claim that it's there. We have to have a little bit, of influence, but they know that the root issue, the ones who are religious, they can't refute us with a logical argument. So like I say, the only way they do it is either by insulting us or ridiculing us. They tell their children, don't look at them, they're evil, self-hating Jews. Imbecile, stupid, no depth and no logic in what they're talking about.
Cool. Yeah, appreciate it.
Let me just show you something else.
Yeah.
One of the other issues is that we carry a lot of pictures with us that constantly our Jews who are religious and true to Judaism stand and protest against the state of Israel and their breaching of the Torah laws, and they get brutally beaten. This goes on constantly, and the world never reports on this. This is an ongoing phenomenon every day.
Who beats them up?
This is the Israeli government, their police, this is a book here you can see. First of all, you can see demonstration never gets reported. This is when Netanyahu came to visit President Obama. Tens of thousands of Jews demonstrating, never gets written up in front of the White House here. And this is in every land. And this is what you find in Israel. That the Jews simply were never militant. They never accuse us of carrying arms or anything like that. Well, this is in Manhattan, in front of the cross from the Israeli embassy. Tens of thousands, lots and lots long demonstrating. But in Israel, whenever they demonstrate, they get brutally beaten. This is see. And nobody speaks about this. This is all the time, and we have masses and masses in the Holy Land. This is in Jerusalem. This is an ongoing, and nobody talks about this. So when they see us, they say, "Oh, it's just it's a fringe group." It's totally not true. Even if it would be a fringe group, you can't change the truth. The Torah is totally contradictory to the concept of having a state. It just happens to be that, thank God, around the world, the very religious have never given up their name Israel, and they never accept the state of Israel. We pray every day for the speedy, God help, peaceful and total dismantlement of the state. And then with God's help, we'll be able to live in peace. And not only spiritually will it save the Jews, who are there ensnaring their souls, but it will stop, the bloodshed will stop.
Then why is America seem to be so pro-Zionist?
Excuse me?
Why does America seem to be so pro-Zionist?
First of all, we say that the state of Israel was ratified defies logic. In numbers, the vast majority of people living in Palestine was Muslim. Then there was a Christian community and a small Jewish community. The Jewish community itself had for hundreds of years coexisted with Muslims and Arabs, and we have the writings of the chief rabbi of Palestine, which I keep with us, their documents, and they all pleaded that they don't want a state. This is the chief rabbi of Palestine in 1947. And he pleaded with that. We furthermore wish to express our definite opposition to a Jewish state in any part of Palestine. And there's so much more writings, and Jews were assassinated because they stood up and speaking up against the creation of a state, and they were murdered. Tens and hundreds of Jews were murdered whenever they stood up, and we have the history, the documentation of all this. Some of the pictures you've seen, but we have this rabbi was murdered. This is, and we have documents of documents even in the 1920s. This was Dr. Dahan. He said he's going to go to he was a gifted diplomat, and he said he's going to convey the message to Parliament in Britain that the Jews don't want the state. So the Haganah assassinated him. They warned him, and they openly assassinated him in the streets of June in 1924. I mean, we have on and on and on. The great leaders who ever spoke up, many of them were murdered. So, unfortunately, although it shouldn't have happened, it was ratified. Although the majority were Muslim, it was ratified, the state. And it's like I said, we believe it's the works of Satan. But then throughout this, every time like different people support it, there's a logical reason you can look at. But a lot of it has to do with humanitarian concerns. You could say many people in America, I'm not talking about the government, the individuals, maybe had pity on the Jews that we went through the Holocaust. And the Zionists always used the Holocaust, which is a whole long topic in and of itself, how they abuse the Holocaust. My grandparents died in Auschwitz, my relatives. Here I have a rabbi who's standing here. He's sitting right over there. He was in the bunkers. His mother was killed, his family was murdered, and he remained alive because he hid in a bunker in the war in the past, Hungary. We all are victims of the Holocaust, and yet we oppose Zionism. But the Zionists took this Holocaust and they used that to intimidate that everybody has to support them to have a state. So, I mean, you're asking why people support it. Sometimes from the goodness of their hearts, they feel pity on the Jews. It could be other reasons of oil, and because they wanted somebody like a Western culture in the Middle East. Whatever the reason may be, it's wrong. And we plead with the United States government, respectfully, that they should appreciate that, on the contrary, the fact that there is a state is the root cause of this endless river of bloodshed, both for Muslims, the Arabs, all the turmoil, the repercussions around the world, the exacerbation of anti-Semitism throughout the world. Zionism is the root cause of all of this. And you can study it and you will see that's a fact. Like I say, because you can look, Jews flourished, and for hundreds of years, communities that flourished in Arab and Muslim countries. Why? What changed now? One thing and one thing only: the creation of Zionism. The religion of the Muslims stayed the same. The religion of Judaism didn't change. What changed is this interloper, Zionism, who came along and they just drove a wedge into this area, a newcomer to the block, where Jews, Muslims, and Arabs babysat each other's children. And we have people who can attest to that in Jerusalem. They babysat each other's children, lived in the same courtyards. And all of a sudden Zionism came about and everything was ruined. Remove this impediment to peace and God help, we'll have peace, we'll be able to live and coexist.